Now, about a dozen suspected militants from the Qaeda-linked group Al-Shabaab were killed in the U.S. airstrikes in southern Somalia on Monday and Tuesday. Pentagon spokesman Captain Jeff Davis said those targeted posed an imminent threat to U.S. personnel. He said the strikes were carried out by unmanned aircraft. Last month, the U.S. military also targeted an Al-Shabaab training camp in Somalia, killing more than 150 militants. Despite African Union peacekeeping forces pushing back the militants, they remain a potent force in the country. For more details and insights on this story, let's talk to CCTV's Abdulaziz Bilo. He joins us live from Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. Abdulaziz, do we have confirmation on exactly where the drone strikes hit and the casualty numbers?
Yes, Penina, we have received both confirmation from U.S. officials and the Somali government. They say that indeed the drone strike did take place in the southern Somali town of in the southern Somali region of Lower Juba. Now, the attack took place in a remote area called Yontoi. Now, Yontoi is on the outskirts of the strategic port of Kismayo that once served as a lifeline for the militant group before Kenyan forces dislodged the militants and retook that control of that port town of Kismayo. Now, what Somali officials and the U.S. officials are not confirming yet is whether these 12 Al-Shabaab fighters who were killed, they were the average Al-Shabaab fighters or they were senior commanders. They are yet to elaborate further on that. So that's the information that we have from the Somali government and from the U.S. But one thing to note is that there's been increased aerial attacks by U.S. forces and also by special elite squads from the Somali government here in conducting operations against Al-Shabaab. Now, most recently, the Somali commandos and aided by the U.S. special forces actually carried out a number of attacks in 3 regions of Al-Shabaab controlled areas within Lower and Middle Juba. Now, the Somali government, through the Department of Defense, they say that 8 militants were killed in one of these attacks. So, and these attacks are carried out by Somali and U.S. forces. So they are saying that these attacks like these will continue in the long run.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Abdulaziz, U.S. authorities appear to have accelerated the use of drone attacks in the fight against Al-Shabaab. What has been the impact of this so far?
Well, the government here and the African Union forces actually have welcomed these aerial capabilities, these aerial attacks rather against Al-Shabaab positions. Now, most recently, a deadly single strike in the central Somalia, actually in a camp that housed more than 150 militants called Raso. It was hit by U.S. drone strike and 150 militants are believed to have died on that single attack. Now, it is believed that this is the single most deadliest attack against the Al-Shabaab ever since it began attacking African Union and Somali government forces. Now, U.S. forces have also increased and accelerated these drone strikes. Now, the African Union force commander here in Somalia and also the African Union chairperson in an interview earlier last month actually told me that actually the use of aerial capability is one thing that the AMISOM forces lacked for a while, but now they are welcoming these drone strikes and they hope that these attacks will actually give them an upper hand in the fight against the Al-Shabaab, as we have witnessed in the past couple of days. The militants are actually on the run. Experts are saying that they are fleeing now, the militants, and that they've been overpowered. And actually, this is a major boost for African Union forces and the Somali government, who are preparing to have a secure environment for Somalia to hold elections when it comes September.
All right. Abdulaziz Bilo joining us from Mogadishu. Many thanks.